Hello, people, and welcome back to Zero Views, which is probably going to be pretty short considering I only have Toonami, the Intruder 3, and then RWBY Volume 4, Episode 3. Hey, we're on threes. Isn't that exciting? Anyway, let's start with the Intruder 3, since obviously that is the newest one, and because I usually go newest, then less new, and then oldest. So, the order is going to go Toonami, then RWBY, and then Exade once we get back to Exade, because there is no Exade this week, since sports, or rather marathons. Yeah, I know, Japan is weird sometimes. So, Intruder 3 starts off with Sarah giving a science report and thinks Tom is blowing her off since he's outside relaxing on Shogo 162. What's it called? Because, it's interesting to see Tom relaxing on the new planet they're on, purely because he's mostly been in the base this entire time. But it's pretty nice. Also, we find out that Tom does karaoke, and Sarah thinks he's blowing her off because he's mad about karaoke night the day before, and Tom's all like, what's it called? It's like, that karaoke program has a filthy lying voice. I have a beautiful singing voice. And it's like, yes, Tom, yes you do. You're voiced by Steve Bloom. I actually haven't heard Steve Bloom sing, but Steve Bloom has a magnificent voice. So obviously he has like a good singing voice, I think. I don't know. If anyone knows if Steve Bloom has sung before, please link it to me or tell me about it. Okay, anyway, Tom's mentioned that they can finally explore and starts talking about storms, but something comes up and it's a storm. And he sees the storm, but he also sees something inside of the storm, which Sarah confirms. Tom runs, but he stops once he finds out the thing inside the storm is gone, but surprise, surprise, it busts out of the ground behind him, and it's a giant alien worm, and the episode ends right there. Yeah, these Intruder 3 videos are like 2 minutes long, so it's honestly not that big to recap them, but it is interesting to see that, hey, Tom and Sarah aren't the only ones on Shogo 162, and I'm curious as to what direction this is going, because I'm curious if the worms are the reason that the previous base was abandoned. Either way, next time, it looks like we're probably going to be getting Tom versus the worm, or rather Tom running from the worm and pleading Sarah to open the door for dear life. Overall, I liked it. The lighting's really good, and it looks like they have a bit more of a budget now because the bumpers... go back to my Toonami Intruder 2 review where I talk about the bumpers, but it was essentially the bumper was a static model of the screen on the bridge of the Absolution, and then it had the word Intruder Alert on it, I believe, or alert or whatever on it, and then what's it called? You just saw the words on the screen. This one, they have different angles for it, and they also have they zoom in and stuff, and that's pretty cool. I didn't think they were gonna do that because I would say they have a lot more of a budget, but the fact that they're doing these bumpers they don't get as old fast is pretty good. But yeah, overall Intruder 3, while I'm not as hyped as Intruder 2, I am excited because I'm curious as to where they take this new total immersion event. So yeah. Now then, talking about RWBY Volume 4, Episode 3. So the episode this time, surprisingly, it focuses on Blake and Yang. And I'm actually kind of happy because I thought we were gonna get RWBY the entire time with Team Ranger, and then the other three would kind of have their own things. I'm not gonna sense a pattern here because they're probably going to blow off my expectations, but for some reason I feel like we're gonna get RWBY and Weiss episodes. Those are gonna be how it's divided, and then it's gonna be Blake and Yang episodes. That makes sense to me, but at the same time, they could do something different. I don't know. It's whatever, really. Anyway, so Yang is still in a downer mood because of what happened, and watching the news doesn't help her either. Though at least she has a name on who cut her arm off because they mention Adam and they give a picture of him, so that obviously catches her attention. So her dad, Tai Yang, comes home and reveals that Ironwood ordered an arm to be made for her. Uh, like an actual robot arm, and like he says about how, like, she was like brave and a hero and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, what if Ironwood is trying to make up for being a hard ass in Volume 3 because he was the one who didn't believe Yang? But then I'm pretty sure once the whole event was over, he realized, okay, what could have started the negativity to attract the Grimm in the first place? Oh, hey, Yang's fight against Mercury. Maybe it was an entire setup or something. You know what I mean? And like he probably began to think that, and he's all like, wow. And then she got her arm cut off in battle. So like, I know how that feels because Ironwood has a fucking robot arm. But he says that, or he's thinking that, and he's probably all like, I should probably apologize, but he can't apologize in person, so he just sends a robot arm. So Yang doesn't put it on right away because the depression she's in goes deeper than just losing an arm, and gaining the arm won't get it back. But we see some, like, a little montage of her like doing chores around the house. And it's nice to see that even though she's in this kind of funk, she at least helps out, which is nice. While she's washing dishes, though, she drops a glass on accident, and like she backs away suddenly from it because like she gets like a short, like brief, like flashback from when her arm was cut. And I guess Yang has some kind of PTSD. I wouldn't say like full PTSD because honestly, I don't know like the full nature of post-traumatic stress disorder, but he has something similar to that. And, Tai Yang sees this, and hopefully he realizes that this goes deeper than the arm, the whole arm thing. So he needs to be a good father and help her out. I feel like he's going to play a vital role in helping Yang get out of her funk. But that's all we see about Yang, and obviously all we really saw about Yang was the Yangst. Yes, I know, that was a bad pun. Be quiet, you people. You people who are judging me silently. Anyway, so, let's talk about Blake now. Blake is traveling on a boat, and she talks to the captain for a bit, who notices that she's alone, and says how boat rides are pretty boring, and that you should have probably taken a partner. But he also says, like, the people who are usually alone are the ones that, they're the ones that have the more interesting stories. Interesting to note is that she's grown a lot more paranoid because, obviously she would, because she's running from Adam and the White Fang, and, one could pop out at any moment. Especially because there's a mysterious man in a brown cloak watching her, and we pretty much all know who it is at this point, especially because they don't really do a good job at covering up, like, certain features. Anyway, also, Blake actually gets rid of her bow, like leaving her cat ears exposed. And I'm thinking to myself, so is this like a sign that they're confident about the new, like, engine they're using for RWBY? Because I did notice that, because with Blake, and then later on we meet Sun, with those two, there are, like, faunus parts, like the tail and the ears. They actually move around a lot more, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, I could get used to this. So anyway, a Chinese dragon / sea serpent Grimm, I guess I'll just call it a sea dragon. It's weird because it's like this Chinese dragon, but it can go into the water, but it also has wings. So it's like a mix between like a Western dragon, a Chinese dragon, and a sea serpent. I don't know, but I'll just call it the sea dragon for now because I don't think there's an official name. So basically, it attacks. We find out that the mysterious man is Sun, obviously, who assists Blake in fighting the Grimm. The ship isn't defenseless as it tries to use cannons to attack, and eventually Blake clips the wing and forces it back to sea level. The ship is able to completely destroy it with a heavy cannon. It's slow, but they were able to get it into a position to where it couldn't move away fast in time, so there's that. It was pretty cool to see Blake, like, get a solo-ish fight scene. Like, yeah, Sun was there, but she wasn't relying on, like, another teammate, and she was doing most of the action. It was also nice to see both Sun and Blake deal with the Grimm with the help of what are essentially civilians, because while they did have, like, weapons to deal with it, like, it was easy for, Blake. It was easier because of Blake and Sun, and I find that cool. Like, you see actual, like, not hunters or huntresses, like, you see the, like, regular people cooperating with them to help defeat a Grimm, and I find that pretty cool. So Blake and Sun talk afterwards. Blake is furious that Sun followed her, since that's why she was running away anyway. And Sun mistakes her intentions for single-handedly fighting the White Fang and taking the fight to them, but Blake denies those claims because she says she's going back home to Menagerie to sort some things out. And then, like, even though Blake protests Sun's thing and about, like, him abandoning his team, he mentions he does it all the time, and plus one of his teammates has a fear of water, so, that doesn't help. But, what's it called? He's all like, I can't really go anywhere now. I'm already on the boat, so we might as well. I might as well tag along with you to help you out. So yeah, nice to see that we're gonna have a familiar face with Blake, which is good. Really, I think the only person that doesn't really have a familiar face in, like, their side of the story right now is Weiss. That depends on if we see Winter or more of Ironwood in her, like, sections of Volume 4. But, yeah, like, each member from RWBY actually has, like a previous character. RWBY obviously has the remains of Team Juniper. Blake has Sun. Yang has Tai Yang, who's been, talked about and introduced in the last volume. And then Weiss really doesn't have anyone else other than Winter, who I'm curious as to where she is at the moment, and then Ironwood from, like, the last volume. But that's about it in terms of that, unless they bring back, like, two random, like, people from Atlas that were in the Vital Festival tournament. But who knows? Anyway, the episode doesn't end there, because we actually get some time with the villains, which is surprising because I thought they were going to keep them, like, secret till, like, episode 5 or something. But no, so we get some time with the villains. Basically, apparently, like, something is fighting for control within Cinder, or she's trying to, like, fight something, like, to recover or something. Not sure. But this weird jellyfish Grimm, the Seer Grimm, shows up, and then Salem asks the big question, because Cinder told her that Ozpin is dead, but she wants clarification, because from the way the way they made it seem, that Cinder had Emerald tell Salem this because she couldn't speak. Before, like, Cinder calls Emerald over, but Salem's all like, no, I want to hear it out of your mouth, bitch. And so Cinder's all like, yes, I killed Ozpin. But something tells me that while Salem believes, like, that Cinder's telling the truth, perhaps Ozpin faked his death or something. Who knows? Again, apparently Ozpin's situation is complicated. But yeah, basically Salem orders the Seer Grimm to send more reinforcements to Beacon and to start looking for a relic. So curious as to see what this relic is and what part it plays in all this. And then she wonders about Ozpin's next move, which makes her, which makes it seem, because, like, she says, okay, yeah, he's dead, but it's like, I wonder what your next move is, Ozpin. So it's like, this weird. It's like, you were reported dead, but I know you're still, like, making moves out there, you know what I mean? Obviously, Ozpin isn't, like, dead. Again, it's complicated with him. But yeah, overall pretty good episode. Nice to see what Yang's doing. Nice to see she isn't just completely depressed in bed and she likes to do like chores to like try and take her mind off stuff. Tai Yang is going to be a very important person in helping her, in helping her get her groove back and stuff. Blake's journey is going to be pretty interesting as well because we're going to Menagerie, which is a different, continent in the world of Remnant, and not one of the four kingdoms, so that'll be fun. It'll be interesting, and she's going back for personal reasons, so we might actually see Blake's family. And I'm assuming that the two people in the opening for RWBY Volume 4, that was that was Blake's father and mother or something, or family, or surrogate family, whatever. We're gonna see her family. So yeah, nice episode. I'm definitely interested in Blake's story a lot because I'm curious as to where that's going, because we're going like away from the four kingdoms. Like, if I had to rank whose stories I'm excited to see, I'd have to say Blake at number 1, Yang at number 2, RWBY number 3, and Weiss at number 4. Now, don't get me wrong, Weiss's story is pretty interesting, but it's basically going to boil down to, we're going to do this charity concert, but probably something is going to go wrong at the charity concert, because that looks like how it's going to be set up. RWBY, like RWBY's group, obviously they're going to be getting the main action. I don't know what exactly turns it's going to take, but they're the main focus, and I'm not too interested in what developments they'll be having. Yang, I'm curious as to how she's going to get out of her funk and how they're going to make her segments interesting, because they can't have her moping around all the time, obviously. And then with Blake, well, I find hers the most interesting because we're exploring new uncharted territory with her. We got a sea life Grim too, which is already a plus. Sun's tagging along, and we're gonna see more of her home and backstory, which is really good because I've always wanted to see more of Blake's backstory ever since we found out in Volume 1 and stuff. So there's that. That's the way I rank what I'm most interested to see. Not sure what next week is going to be though, because it could be anything. So yeah, I'm Zero. Toonami Intruder 2 was pretty good. RWBY Volume 4, Episode 3. I said Intruder 2. Intruder 3, Episode 1 was pretty good. RWBY Volume 4, Episode 3 was pretty good. Overall, a good week, albeit a bit short, but somehow this video is 18 minutes or so. So, I'll be seeing you guys next time.